with that, we're live. Hello and welcome to Dirty Drinks and Discussions, the RPG podcast where a bunch of nobodies get around, pretend to be somebodies, and talk RPGs. Basically. But before we jump into all that, we're gonna give a decent break. We're gonna go a word from our sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by, and I took that personally.
Yes, myself and this cat in front of me named Mulberry. We we are we do a podcast on Apple and Spotify podcasts. Well, we've been doing it. It's called "And I Took That Personally," but we've been on a little bit of a dry spell for episodes. We're finishing up the editing on our final or our next newest episode here, not the final one. But it's basically a show where I talk with my friend Brad and I guess Kitty Cat, and we talk about movies and everything around the movie. So it's just we discuss the movie itself and then a lot of stuff that it made us think of. Sometimes it gets a little bit personal. Well, it always gets personal, but I mean, sometimes it gets personal in a way where it's just us talking about life, and other times we're raging about it's not like the book. That was me, first episode. But because we've had a dry spell, I'm also releasing on the same channel a show I did initially with just me called The Mr. Pickles Show, where I reviewed the entire Evil Bong series, including the Ginger Dead Man series branch off that becomes relevant. It's a complete train wreck of a movie series that I actually just absolutely love for all of its weirdness and complete illogical nature with plot holes everywhere you can just fill in willy-nilly. Yeah, it is my first attempt at a podcast, so it's not good, but it's really short. It's like 15 to 25 minutes per episode. I become unhinged on the next episode, I believe, which comes out every Sunday. I'm just releasing them until I don't have any more every Sunday.
There you go. So thank you guys for checking that out, hopefully. Pause the video. Go check that out. Watch all of them. And then you can come back, hit play, sneeze, and then finish watching us.
I mean, honestly, once all episodes are out, all 13, I literally just put it on one day at work and took up my work day, but it was 6 hours of myself ranting angrily about people turning into clowns and then not acknowledging it, and weird times. It's fun times.
There you go. Go check it out. And with that, we're going to go over to drinks and discussions. So, for today's episode, what we want to discuss is specifically related to TTRPGs. Now, if you've been a fan of the show or watching the show at all, you'll know that we discuss TTRPGs a lot because we're very connected to TTRPGs. We play them a lot on the channel. That is a tabletop role-playing game. So where you've got RPGs, which... Did we ever do the video where we talked about what actually makes an RPG an RPG?
We talked about it.
We've done that 3 or 4 times, but it's always gone a different direction. We start there and then it just grows out in a weird direction.
Yeah, well, eventually we'll talk about what an RPG is, but a TTRPG is just a role-playing game on a tabletop format, like a board game. Relating to TTRPGs, we wanted to talk about specifically creating them, coming up with the ideas, coming up with the concept, designing the game. And so what that means is for anyone writing a book, writing a novel, creating a movie, you got to write the plot, you got to come up with all the ideas, the concepts, the bad guys, the storylines, the characters, the items, the rewards, the drama, all of it, right? And so from that aspect, how does that happen? What goes into that? How does that play out? How does it change? How does it develop? What we're going to talk about today is we're going to start off this little mini series, which is probably going to cover a couple episodes, kind of going through this whole concept. What we wanted to start off with today is kind of the inspiration that you gather, how you come up with the general idea when you're like, I want to run a game. What would it be on? Or it's like, hey, this would be a really cool thing to run a game on. I'm going to start working on that. Where does that influence come from? That inspiration come from? How does it develop within you, the storyteller? And I happen to have with me a couple of guest stars today, co-hosts, really not guest stars, of this podcast. I myself am Wrath. I created the TTRPG campaign called King's Crossing. It is a well-performing series so far, ongoing on the channel. You can find it all on the YouTube channel. It's called King's Crossing. It features 5, soon to be 6 players, and spans within game time. I think it spans about a week or 2 now. So a little bit of storyline there. There's about 30 episodes or so. Good time. Go check it out. With me, I have we'll go to Mr. Pickles. He is the content creator and storyteller for the campaign called Strange Town of Golden Ridge. It is also found on the channel. You can find 2 whole seasons of it now. The first season, Lost to History, Lost to Time and Space, however, recapped in the following 2 seasons. So that one has, God, I don't know what your total count is now of episodes, but do you remember how many were in season 2?
Not at all.
Yeah, I don't either. Season 3 just released episode 9 today. Episode 10 and 11 are recorded and will be coming out soon. We just wrapped that season up. We'll be coming back for season 4 soon. And then our last co-host today is Adis. Adis is the writer and content creator of... We came up with a name for it. Rolling Dirty or something. What was it?
There were 2. And you guys liked the one that was the second to mine. I liked
Dirty
Rolling
something.
Along, because it just kind of gives a summary vibe of just, we keep on rolling along. You guys want to do the dirty journey.
The Dirty Journey. Yep.
Dirty Journey.
Yep.
I was like, but we're really not having any dirty moments. And then it's like, but they're going to say, technically we are drinks and discussions.
I ripped the head off a deer and mounted it on our...
It's pretty dirty.
And we kept rolling along.
We did. So this is the writer and content creator of the mini series or mini campaign called Dirty Journey, where we actually play it here on this podcast every now and then. So just watching through this podcast, you'll be able to catch episodes of that. Which there are, how many have we done? 4 maybe?
We've done maybe 4.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Yeah,
it's coming along.
Yeah, 4 sounds like a good number.
So what we've got here is we've got a bunch of storytellers, dungeon masters, writers, developers, creators, creative geniuses, absolutely. Whatever you want to call us, we've probably been called worse, so it's okay. With that, I'm going to pitch the concept over to you guys. Who wants to start? Who wants to tackle this first off?
I mean, I know what I know my answer, but I'd actually like to hear from Adis first, since you're, I believe, the newest to this writing process. So I'd like to see, before we share our weird spoilers and weird moments and how we make our stories, I want to hear from your unspoiled,
my unspoiled mind, my unmolded, yes. So I'm definitely in this group the freshest of the bunch when it comes to writing for a TTRPG atmosphere. I had a long time of listening to podcasts such as Critical Role, such as Dimension 20, very scripted, very like, these are all like professional voice actors and stuff like that.
Big budget.
Big budgeting sort of things. So I was kind of, that was my introduction into the TTRPG environment. But not my introduction to the RPG environment, because I've been a long time video gamer. I've been playing World of Warcraft for many years, and I currently am making my way through WoW Hardcore. For those that are in it, good luck. Stay safe. So the RPG world is not entirely new to me, but when Wrath and Pickles approached me about trying my hand at doing some dungeon mastery, I took it as an opportunity to see what all goes into the dungeon master storyline building process, and I've had a lot of fun with it along the way.
So, if
Um,
you don't mind, I interject here.
yeah.
You came in, you played maybe 10 episodes of King's Crossing.
Yep.
For those who don't know, he is the voice and portrayal of the character known as Adareg. Um, can't remember if you had a last name. Do you know Torvekic has a last name?
I thought Kekik
Oh, I've got
was
a
his
last name, all right.
Hmm. I feel like you did have a last name. Nimblehole.
That was Nimble Wench.
Oh,
But
is it Nimble
uh,
Wench? That was
that was the name
close.
of the boat. But
Oh,
yeah,
Nimble Wench is the boat. What's your
yeah,
character's name?
Adareg, Nimble. It's Nimble something.
Oh, I
God,
was, I was kind of close.
yeah,
So
it
you had the
was.
Nimble Wench, and then your name is Nimble something? Nimblefoot?
Yeah,
Nimble? I don't know. I
Nimble.
can't remember. She's the voice of
Hey,
Adarag. You know, yeah, Torvekic has the last name. It's like Stoneheart. He said it once in one episode, and I need to go find it. It was in episode 1, I think.
So his last name
mhm.
really isn't Kekik.
No. um,
Poor.
but anyways, you played through, like, we'll say 10 episodes of King's Crossing. You played in, I don't know, what, 3-4 episodes of Minds of Fendover?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And
And
then and one episode. What was it? Like 3-4 episodes of
4 episodes of the
uh
Applejack and Bandits.
Applejack and Bandits, yeah. So you had, we'll say, maybe 20-ish episodes of experience, right?
Yeah.
And then we were like,
Of player experience.
try DMing. Which is very different
Why not?
from me. I was a player for year or so, under Pickles' tutelage, actually. So everything I do, thanks to him. You're welcome, everyone. But anyway, so I was curious. Yeah, you came into this as a real fresh player and DM. So I think you're gonna have a very different experience, and like, we didn't really influence you on where to gather content and how to DM and how to prepare and all that. So I feel like I'm really gonna be interested in what you have to say here. Just very
Yeah,
different
and
background.
yeah, and I think that kind of leads to it is my I've had to draw more so on my own personal experiences and my own personal like logic trains, as opposed to somebody who's maybe a bit more seasoned with DMing and a bit more seasoned with tabletop RPG gaming. Um, so it's definitely, and I've heard this. I mean, Pickles talks about it sometimes. Is that uh, a lot of my story making and storyline comes from kind of an engineering background, an engineering technical side, and I have to agree because right now that's mostly what my background is in. So it kind of shines through in the way that I think about creating a problem and rewarding a solution.
So
I
when
mean,
you go ahead, Pickles.
I was just gonna say that's like the golden rule of everything is you can only write about what you know, and that's why so many writers, it seems, end up writing stories about writers. Looking at you, Stephen King. Not that that's bad. It's just that you really only know what you actually know, and that's a when I'm looking to make like a new game or something, I always feel that handicap of I don't know that much about what it's like to be a police officer. I don't really know gun laws in my country very well. Kind of is a detriment when you're running a modern setting and somebody wants to play a police detective. But um, I mean, yeah, that's really just the interjection. Is it helps to write what you know and rely on what you know.
Mhm.
See,
And in your case, it's actually quite fun. I think
I've
the engineering background is something I'm unfamiliar with.
I've got something to add to that, and it kind of falls in my category, so I kind of want to save it for later. But I'm gonna dabble pieces of it, and then you guys can remind me of it when I forget later to talk about it.
Right.
Okay. So with me, I do a lot of I don't want to pull from any one source, because if I just like run Game of Thrones game, everyone's gonna figure it out. You know, everyone's gonna be like, all right, like even if I rename places, characters, they're gonna be like, I've heard this story before. You know,
Mhm.
they're gonna piece it together and figure it out. Um, and actually, I had that happen. I tried to run. It was with the very short-lived school campaign that I believe Pickles was in. I took a
yeah.
lot of influence from Dimension 20 school campaign they ran. And at one point, one of the players was like, I know this story. And I was like, oh no. No, it's different, I swear. It really wasn't much different. And that was a huge kind of eye-opening experience for me, where I was like, you can't pull from any one source too much, because anyone who's seen it, knows it, whatever, they're going to be like, I know what this is. So for me, I pull from a lot of different things. Like, I try and pull from as many, and I've tried to make a list at one point. I have books, games, movies, shows that I've like pulled pieces. Oh, I like this, I like this, I like this, and I create something from that. And I'll go into more depth on that later on in the episode. But one of those was like, I don't do horror movies or anything like that. It's not my genre. But I have a very specific horror thing going on in King's Crossing, and I pull that from playing Pickles games. Because Pickles is really good at horror stuff, and I'm not. So I'm like, I'm gonna try and pick little things that I'm like, oh, this worked really well. I want to pull that and maybe get to use stuff like that in my game. So I don't know. I don't really remember what we were talking about that brought me onto that topic, but that's one thing that influences me.
Yeah, that kind of goes in line with we were talking about like the things that I pull from
Writing about what you know.
Background.
That's what it was. Yeah. See, I don't know horror stuff, so I pull from people who do, so that way I can add that to my game, so that way it's not just lacking it entirely because I don't know it. That's like if someone wants to play, I don't know, if somebody wants to play a paranormal investigator, and I'm like, I don't do paranormal stuff, but I know someone who does, and I can start pulling from their stuff. I can start learning it, and like, I know one of my players wants to go into like an engineering thing and design a whole battle suit and everything. I don't know anything about that. Google does. So I'm gonna start figuring it out, and finding what I can pull from it. Okay, I'm gonna watch let's watch some Transformers, let's watch some Iron Man, let's watch some what was that one where they built giant mech suits to battle the monsters that were coming out of the ocean?
Oh, Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim?
Yeah.
Another option.
Yeah.
So like, I know stuff out there, or Titanfall, another game, Mech Warrior. And I'm like, okay, Real Steel, yeah. I'm gonna start pulling from these things so that I can take bits and pieces. I don't just take the Real Steel storyline and give it to Tough Nuts. What I do is I pull bits and pieces so that I can create my own story from those and give it to Tough Nuts so he can develop, discover his own story. So that's what it was. Writing about what you know, or expand your influences, instead of like, hey, I want to write about this. Okay, write about this, so that way you have more to write about rather than just writers. That's my own 2 cents on them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I rambled a little bit, but
Well, it made me think you can also add to that a little bit that as the storyteller, you have to accept that you have deficits in certain areas. Nobody's the whole ability to run every single thing accurately in the universe. And that's where it's helpful to rely on your players a little bit to bring their own experiences into what they want to play. Ideally, you have players who are passionate about their idea and are like, yeah, I really, really want to play a gnome illusionist. And so I've written up all these illusions I can do. Therefore, you don't have to. Like the player who's passionate and very experienced in what they're trying to do, the engineer playing an engineer, like, you can almost rely on their experience rather than need to fill in the gaps. If you have a player who is really into guns, and so their character is really, really into guns, maybe World War II guns, you can always just ask them for a list and start just using that as a resource itself. Because if they're passionate about it, they'll tell you what they want. They really, really want.
So tell me what you want. What you're gonna want.
Didn't I regretted Spice Girling there immediately, but then it's like, whatever.
Now we're gonna get copyrighted by the Spice Girls.
Now we're gonna get, because we sang it too well.
Right. Yeah. It's gonna get flagged. I told you guys about Labyrinthine getting copyrighted.
I did hear about that.
Yeah, the last episode had a soundtrack playing during the credits or whatever when we were talking about the game and what we liked and everything, and they copyrighted the video, and I was like, Why? So mad. Yeah,
Boo.
I was so mad. I was
Sorry,
like-
don't cut me out.
But anyways, okay, so we kind of have an idea of what I do. Kind of have an idea. Well, actually, I don't know if we really got to the bottom of Adis, so I'm gonna throw it back to Adis. We're gonna spotlight you for a bit.
Potato.
With potato.
Hot potato. We threw the
Oh.
hot potato right back to him. He threw it to you. You threw it right back.
That makes more sense. Yeah, I kind of took it, and then I'm like, here, you can have this back now. Okay, so with the dirty journey, what went into that? What gave you the idea? Because I know a big influence on that was doing a traveling campaign.
Yeah,
Where did that
and
come from?
and I quickly learned that traveling campaigns or like travel in between places is something that most DMs try to avoid because it becomes kind of boring.
Yeah, there's only
Um,
so much you can do. How many random
yeah,
encounters do you just want to roll? Okay,
throw
it's a
at people,
goblin.
yeah.
It's 2 goblins. It's a
Mhm.
goblin.
So the idea for it though came from the idea of I liked when we were talking about like things that we enjoyed about more so in general like games, not specifically just TTRPGs. One thing that was brought up was like the ability to build your base and the ability to kind of grow the something that you're constantly interacting with. And I liked that idea, and I thought maybe having something like that, but on the move, would be an interesting idea. So I started to go down that path. As an engineer, I dug myself into like, okay, what sort of a vehicle would accommodate that, and what sort of things could we add along the way, and how could we start to shape the vehicle. I came back to Wrath and Pickles about that, and they pointed out, okay, that's fine, but you need a storyline to go around it too. And I really, and that was kind of where I opened up to, oh, well, that's one aspect of the story, but we need to also include a driving factor. And then from there, it started to shape into, all right, what's the background of why are you in this cart? What's going on with it? What is the purpose of these carts?
Before you, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great starting spot. Be like, hey, I really want them to have this, moving mobile platform that they can continue to build on. That is a great starting spot because that develops so many questions. Just like you said, why are they on it? Where is it going? Why is it leaving where it was? Who else would be on it? Why would they be traveling from here to there? That's so many questions that start to develop a story just on their own. I know we don't know. We haven't uncovered anything about we've uncovered some things about the story in the game so far, but not enough to really have any answers. So please, obviously, keep all spoilers, lock tight. But, yeah, that right there is a great starting spot for building a storyline because it develops it on its own. Like I said, you start asking questions, those answers are going to build a story.
Yep. And also, I mean, my background is mostly World of Warcraft, like fantasy is my kind of bread and butter, what I've grown up with, what I'm used to when it comes to telling a story. And I enjoy doing fantasy because it's kind of a break from my everyday life, as we discussed in an earlier episode on Drinks and Discussions. Go watch that. But it's kind of a break for me, and I get to kind of flex my imaginative muscles for a bit, and don't have to be like kind of so grounded in reality for a minute. And that kind of opened up to the what did we call it? The Applejack Bandits
The Applejack and
storyline.
Bandit.
The
Because the
Applejack
bandits
and
were
Bandits.
stealing apples, so they're
Yes.
jacking them apples. They made a pastry monster. It's
Go watch that.
fantasy's not my thing.
Another great series to watch. But that was the introduction of Savage Pickles, which full kudos to our friend Pickles here for coming up with a very simple bar peanuts sort of version of Savage Worlds that lends itself very well to a short form TTRPG platform. And with that, I was able to get an introduction into this fantasy world of that from the mind of Pickles, and from there, I was able to kind of take that world and kind of kind of grow it just a little bit. And I hope by the end of this campaign, I will have expanded our view from just Happy Meadows to now maybe a full continent of other locations around uh, whatever this place may be called.
Yeah, I mean, that was really well said, actually. I was sitting here thinking, how is it going to describe this? And you very eloquently, apparently. Well done. I think that leaves Pickles. You know, what started, well, any of your campaigns, I suppose. You've had an ongoing series, kind of within the same realm of existence, now most prominently featuring Strange Town Golden Ridge.
Yeah, I I have a lot of sources for how I get inspiration for my game, or for my games, I should say. Um, but it all just kind of boils down to a few different books that I use, my vast experience with horror movies, and just listening to music. And to break it down a little bit further, so with horror movies, I describe myself as a horror movie fan. I love scary movies, but when asked to say my favorite or to do like a top 10, it's like, yeah, well, they all suck. Mostly. Like, that's the problem with most horror movies, is they all just are kinda garbage, except for, like, a few scenes that are good. Somebody's gonna crucify me in the comments for that, but that's okay, I don't care. Like, most horror movies that I enjoy, it's like, "Okay, well, that acting wasn't great, but the twist was amazing." And that's something that you could use in a plot line for, I don't know, like, a game with people who are fun to act with? And that's why I love horror movies so much. Like, even flawed ones, like, I don't know, a movie that Brad and I might be reviewing on, and I took that personally next, The Nun from the Conjuring universe.
Oh,
Absolutely terrible. But it has so many built-in functions that make me go, I need to make this into a functional adventure. The idea that you show up at like a convent like of nuns, but they're all acting very, very strange, and you arrive and one was just hanging from a rope outside the front door. Like, that's kind of like a, "Uh-oh, oh no, that a lot of things have gone wrong." It's eliminated, like, in the movie because they do an entire opening scene where it's like, "Uh-huh, it's a spooky jump scare. That's why. Everything's explained." But anyways, yeah, like, that's one of my big joys with watching horror movies, is then being like, "How could I make this so much better?" By having competent heroes and, like, cutting out all of the scenes that are like, "Here's exactly what's going on from the first minute." And so that's one of my big inspirations that you guys probably don't pick up on as much, because who watches all these garbage movies? Not you.
not me. But no,
Maybe Adith.
one thing you did point out is taking anything. I mean, like, that was good, but it could be better. A big thing for that is video games. That's an easy one for me to grasp onto because video games are very limited in what you can do. They're not open world. As much as they want to promise that they're open world, you know, dialogue options. You have like these four options, you know, and that's what, you know, they have limited lines. You have limited, you know, you can jump. You can't like lay down on the ground and roll. You can jump, but you can't climb a, you know, a 4-foot wall, even though you know you should be able to. In a TTRPG, the options are unlimited. And so you can take that confined setting and be like, wow, that would be really cool if you could do the cool things around it. Put it in a TTRPG. Now you can do all those cool things around it and you can make it so much better. I think that's a similar concept to the horror movie. Hey, this would be really cool if it wasn't limited to this 1 hour or I guess maybe 2 hour time frame. If you drew it out into like a series, you could really capitalize on these horror moments and drawing out the story and, you know, pulling the threads to really just capitalize on the environment and the suspense and the drama. And I think that's a huge influence for any meta that you pull.
Yeah.
Medium.
That's
That's what
proper.
works, I think.
Yeah.
But anyways, Pickles, I want you to continue. You said music. Neither of us
Mhm.
spoke about music. Music influences your creative writing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So
You're like, and
I
then he
listen to a lot
threw
of
it on the
music.
ground.
I mean, for the most part, I
It's
listen to
not
hip
my
hop,
birthday.
rap, and whatnot. It tends towards the more jazzy type that has more jazz instrumentals, piano. So it's less of the gangster rap and more of like hieroglyphics, Sweatshop Union, the Far Side from the '90s. Very danceable stuff. Stuff that makes you feel less like more like the people who've been smoking. Anyways, so
Mm.
I listen to a lot of music that's more evocative in the language, and I often like to exercise, do cardio, and imagine different scenarios that go down, let the mind wander. So I mean, I assume everybody does this to an extent, but listening to music, you kind of blend the beat and the way people are saying words, not necessarily the content of the words, but just the general flow of the music, and you can kind of paint a story in your mind. And so, like, I found that I like something called cipher raps, which are where like a bunch of different artists come into like a group and do like a long song based on the same beat and everything. Um, and so it's a bunch of different styles all combined together. And as I'm a fan of martial arts movies to an extent, like Ong Bak and The Raid Redemption, all of the Rush Hour movies, I just can't help but imagine different scenes of different entities fighting. What would happen if a Minotaur was fighting off like a bunch of martial artists or things like that? So that's sort of where I get a lot of inspiration is once I latch on to something that I vibe with of a scene that I want to see competent heroes go through, then that's just one of my inspirations, listening to music and trying to create something new
Hmm.
or conflict driven. And I think just to cap that off, even though I just kind of capped it off there, um, I often imagine the final scene to a story. Like, what is it all building up to? What is the final conflict against the greatest enemy? Because that's easy to build in your mind. And what is the choice? Like, what is the choice of the campaign? What has it been building up to? What does King Verde and Iris need to decide on at the end of this? What's their choice? And just trying to think of the emotional build for each option. Um, but I've been working on building like finite campaigns where it's like this is how many adventures there will be, and then it's done. So that's sort of a different process, I think, in that respect. Um,
Hmm.
that's me on music. I just heard my wife get home, so I'm going to step away for just a few minutes. Um, are you guys good to go on a little bit further? Because we still have the time after the top of the hour, or are we ending at the top of the hour?
No,
We still got
yeah, we started late, so I figured we'd
we got time.
go on. We don't
Yeah.
have an
Okay.
under the table to record, so.
Yeah. I will be right back then.
Well, I don't edit these videos, so instead of doing an awkward pause, Adise and I are gonna keep going. Um, so I'm gonna talk about my own. Even though I kind of dabbled in it earlier, but I
Mhm.
actually it would be interesting because some instances I pull stuff without knowing exactly where I got it from, but like somebody brought up killjoys in Discord recently, and they were talking about something dumb that I don't know, and it's probably not dumb, but I call it dumb because I don't know it. Ignorance. Um, but they were talking about Killjoy, and I was like, oh yeah, Killjoys. That's a show I watched, and actually I remember really liking it. And I was like, wait, I've pulled influence from that for sure. I don't know how
Mhm.
many other people have seen Killjoys, but there is definitely influence of that show pulled into my games. Other mediums like big one, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, huge. I pulled those in. Video games, big ones being like oh god, what is it? Dragon Age. Dragon Age is one that I pulled ideas from. Elder Scrolls, another big one. There, think of the cataclysmic events that happened in the past in King's Crossing relates a lot to the game called Oblivion, done by
Mhm. Bethesda.
Thank you. I was like, done by Elder Scrolls, and I was like, no, that's not right.
Close.
Within the Elder Scrolls realm.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I pull a lot of little things just from bits. Do I have the Oblivion storyline? No. Is there anything specifically like I think in Oblivion it was specifically realms to like the Chaos world or whatever the beings and demons were coming through. That's not what happened in mine. However, I like the idea of portals and stuff opening all over the world at this time, and influences were able to get in. That's something that happened. It also relates to Marvel. Was it Thor: The Dark World?
The one with like the dark elves coming through.
Yeah, where the realms are getting close together and things are able to pass through. Yeah, similar concepts. So taken from that. So I've got just influences and ideas from so many different things that I've pulled over the years that it would be interesting to actually sit down and make a list. It would probably be maybe 100 different books, movies, shows, things. Music, I don't think is one that I could really say has influenced my designs at all. I
That's
don't
an
really.
interesting one.
Yeah, I don't. Nothing wrong with it. It's just different. Like I said.
Yeah.
I can't say it's influenced mine at all. Another one is that I had the benefit of doing is I've done DM workshops, which is a little shorthand off the is it off the hip?
Off the rip.
Off the rip. That's what I was gonna say, and I thought that sounded wrong. Off the rip, series that I put together where I sit down on stream, have my coffee, and we work on the game. We being I do it on stream, and so I get influences from other people. My viewers get to come in and help influence the game. They get to give me ideas and thoughts that come from their brains and their influences and their shows that they've watched or games they've played and da da da. So then I get the benefit of I have all my experience, but then I also have someone coming in and being like, "What about this?" I'm like, "Oh, great." A big example of that is we were designing the game map recently. And in that, somebody mentioned, what if the dwarves were fighting vampires? Like that would have been epic. Like they're in the deeps, vampires are okay in the dark. Like they're down there just getting like a vampire, like not like sparkly vampires, but like power ones where they fly by and like wipe out a crew. And it's like, what was that? That's like a horror campaign that would be like really cool. And I was like, I don't like vampires. Vampires have never been my thing. I think the concept of them is really cool. I think they've been played out. They've been done, over and over and over again. Cool, but I'm good. But then someone brought up that idea, and I was like, yo, dwarves versus vampires war just sounds awesome. Like that just sounds
really
like
cool.
heavy metal Doom type like war.
And somehow the dwarves have figured out like means and like traps and weapons to fight against the vampires that are like super powered. Oh man,
it could be mixed between either like a Doom version where the dwarves have like developed weaponry to go fighting the hordes of vampires coming at them in the Underdark, or like Alien Isolation game type where the like there's a group of dwarves that have gotten isolated and they're being hunted and they're like like the movie A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place 2 where it's like any sound attracts them and like they can find you, so the dwarves have to like, and they're like isolated and have to get back to their kingdom, but they're trapped in the deeps. Like that's awesome. Not something I would have come up with because I wouldn't have even entertained the idea. I'm like, oh, vampires, no. But then someone else in chat brought it up, and I was like, that's awesome! So now there's a historic event where dwarves fought vampires and, purged them from the area, so they think.
If you like that idea, you should try watching the movie Priest. It's a vampire movie where the vampires are like a mob-like enemy with trained people who fight against the vampire. I hate the movie, but it's actually well made.
Sorry, my dog is behaving. My roommate's dog is not. All I'm hearing is barking. I'm sorry.
And now I hear a dog.
Yep, that. There's nothing to bark at.
Nothing.
Gonna be like, meanwhile, Kira, but she's not there. Maybe she's up there barking. Then I just look stupid. Oh. Yeah, Priest, you were saying. Say it again. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so Priest, I think it's from 2011. It's a great movie if you like the concept of like armed forces fighting back against a species called vampires. They're not like true vampires in a sense. They're more like bug-like entities that kind of drain your blood with fangs. But it's really good if you like that concept of we're fighting back against the vampires, as opposed to like the well, I'm Dr. Van Helsing, and I have an issue with Mr. Dracula.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I prefer the
Um,
first version, or like a 28 days later like zombie type
yeah,
instead
yeah,
of Walking Dead, which I
not
thought was
Sferatu.
yeah, like where maybe the vampires are like super vampires, but then they have like their minion underlings, and those are the hordes that they're scrambling around fighting. I think that's a really cool idea. I think it's a really cool concept and something that can definitely make an appearance in my games.
Mm-hmm.
Not something I would have come up with, but we were talking about music hasn't influenced my games at all, so I think it's really interesting that yours has. No, it's not a bad thing at all. I think it's really cool. It's different. Not something I could see even affecting my game. Like if I put on music and was like, I'm gonna pull from this.
Now, I will say that if we're doing if if you're doing something in a in-person campaign, because this has actually come up in our Minds of Fendelver campaign so far, where
Has that game resumed?
adding not yet. We're
Okay.
still one of our players is still trying to figure out if he's going to be here or somewhere else.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
um, but it has come up in the limited games that we have played that it's an interesting thing to bring into a game is like some mood music or some ambient music to kind of drive the theme of what what the scene is supposed to be like.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's something like you start a battle sequence with the dwarves and the vampires and just start playing some heavy metal
Right.
music over
No,
the top of it.
so
Yeah.
that's another big thing that I love getting into the production of my games, and it's something I would love to do for Pickles, but
Mhm.
I don't know what his game is going to consist of, so I can't really prepare production value to it. Like I don't know what scenes are surreal and what scenes are haunted, so I can't like have a track ready. But with King's Crossing, I can. The only problem is I'm so busy DMing and storytelling that I can't also manage production, and
Mhm.
I think it would be
You
really
do a great
cool.
job of that, though.
I
The
try.
like once you start adding in the music,
That
it
rain
seemed very
was
smooth the way you did that.
The
yeah.
rain was iconic.
Yeah.
The only problem
Yeah,
is I only have one track of that, so it just kind of is on repeat, which so far no one's
doesn't
complained
matter.
about. Yeah.
Yeah, as a
Um,
player, it doesn't matter. Like the fact that you actually have that, I was like, man, you should probably step up, Mr. Pickles. And the other Mr. Pickles is like, I don't know, Step Up's a movie.
nice.
The first Pickles
Pull
is like,
influence from that Kingsman
right.
dance off.
But no, that is a good thing to have. Like putting people in the mood definitely made things different going forward, and it's very effective the way music like compels people to feel. And that's the problem. Is like I listen to a song, I get vibed up for like the scenario, I tell the scenario, and it lacks something. It's like, yeah, well, they're not listening to music and vibing out like you are, Mr. Pickles. And it's
Yeah,
like
I
my
think
words
it's
will never be as effective as additional music and atmosphere over it.
I think that's a big thing because when you're writing it, I've noticed this for myself at least. When I'm writing it, I'm immersed. I'm focused. I'm listening to every word I'm writing. I'm in the zone, and I think creating that experience for your players because your players they're playing on their
Are fat and
phone.
drunk, yeah. Oh, I thought you were
Are you
talking
calling
about
us
me.
fat and drunk?
No,
I
no, no.
was like, did you
Your
just
player
insult?
for no, I'm
Daisy's gonna
talking
be
about
mad at
because
you.
no, not for my game. Your player is fat and drunk is me. I'm the one.
No, I'm just saying like players
I'm
aren't in
Grunkle.
the same mind space as you, so you have to help create that and kind of show them the image that you had in your head when you were writing it. And you can do that by describing it, playing the music, the ambiance to fit that. Maybe showing an image to kind of get an idea around that. stuff like that is, I think, creating that vision so that you as a DM have this story in your head and you can show that to the players. This goes back to a previous episode we did where I was like, I wish we had, an AI virtual world where the DM could create this and the players could see it. I think that's the biggest thing lacking from a TTRPG is just being able to share the vision.
I will say, the scene in one of the later episodes of our last run with is in the festival of King's Crossing, and the old lady whose name is evading me right now, but I think it's like Ada something. No, it's not Ada
Granny Evelyn?
Lynn. It's like Ida
Mm.
Grant Evelyn. There we
There
go.
you
I was
go.
close.
Yep.
Granny Evelyn.
Granny
She
Evelyn.
gave me the flower, the crown of flowers,
Yep.
and
You
I'm
got
like,
my crown of
God, that's a
flowers.
grunkle goal. And you had the music going, and I teared up a little bit right there, just kind of being like, I went to the next scene, and I feel like if you walked it through, like I'm legitimately like a little bit distant because I just feel like I've gotten the goal of getting a crown of flowers.
I
Just
remember
in my heart, that's what I'm saying.
there were
And they're
specific
like,
people who were
they're saying something, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? Maybe there's no war coming with the ogres.
oh, we're not gonna come to war.
It was legitimately a moving moment. And I don't know if that was your goal, but
I remember there was people specifically looking for Granny Evelyn. Grunkle found her and then didn't tell anyone.
she gave me a
He was-
crown of
yeah,
flowers.
you mentioned that. You're like, I was so distracted.
I mean, like, I think I've sort of hinted at it, but Grunkle is ogre for garbage. That's not a name, right? I've
Grunkle?
said that,
It's not-
right?
No, Grunkle's great. Grunkle actually
Yeah,
means
no, that's not the
new
name you
god
give a hero,
emperor.
though. Well,
God
be
Warrior
messed
King?
up.
Oh, foreshadowing. I don't know. That'd be crazy. Could you imagine
But
Grunkle?
I mean, I've made that because I've spoken in the first person before, like once.
Right. Yeah.
But
But
I
yes,
feel like we derailed a little bit.
yeah,
here.
we did. But yeah, inspiration I think is creating that. I mean, it's all about creating that vision and then sharing it with your players. And we kind of got into sharing it with the players, but excuse me, that's one thing that is big for me and that I've tried because I'm always trying to improve myself and get better and better. And I think a big part of what I'm trying to get into is creating the production value, both for stream to share with viewers because this is what I do, but also I put it in the game so that my players can also see it and enjoy it. There's big parts to that. One being, I'm not an artist. Designing my own maps and images is not something I just have access to and can do. So I have to really hunt for an image that's gonna show what I want to show, and they're never perfect. So I'm like, God, it's not the vision I have up here. So my players are gonna get a different vision in their head, but maybe that will breed new content that they're like, oh, this vision gave me an idea, and they give it to me, and I'm like, that's a really cool idea that I hadn't thought of, So that works too, but another part of that is production value. Like I said, I can't sit here and change the music tracks and play them at the exact right time. And hey, I'm talking about this character, and oh wait, no, I have to hang on so I can go find it, so I can pull it up, so I can show you guys the image and display it so you know who you're talking to. If I could just be talking and have a production engineer sitting next to me, on their computer running the game, and okay, they're talking to this person, play, and before the game, it's someone who already knows what you're they know the campaign and what you're showing that week. The easiest way I can think of this is a church. So the pastor is going to talk about something. He gives his notes and everything to the production people, and they put it all up on that screen behind him. So that people, when he talks about a scripture or something, they put it up on the screen. When they're playing music, the music is up on the screen, so they know what songs they're going to be playing that week because they have it already up on the screen. Having something like that for your TTRPG, I think, is a huge step in making a better game. It's just you need a team of people, and you know, time and money is the biggest downfall, I think, of any project, really.
Mhm.
Again, I
Yeah.
got a little off track there, but
You're just remarking on the production value of a lot of shows that we take for granted.
Mhm.
Everything has writers. It's not like whenever it's just oh, it's a duo comedy. They have writers, they have production people. There is so much more making them a great TV show than just the nobody just wakes up and is like puts on a camera and is like, yeah, we're just hilarious and we made a whole sitcom.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
a lot of people go into making these things, so I think that's where being a DM or GM or storyteller, what have you, is sort of a intimate process. Is you're seeing the product of just one person, basically. They
Mhm.
might have inspirations and resources, but it's still just basically one person. They're like, have you ever played in a game with a co-DM? It's out there, but
Yeah, no, I
yeah,
haven't.
that's
We've thought
Mhm.
about it, we've talked about it, but we've never done it. It's also for us, it's
it's
a big
hard.
problem because if DM if Pickles and I both DM and like co-DM, maybe he writes the story and I run production or whatever. That means, I mean, out of every, he has a Dece as a player, and that's it. Because now I'm off the board. Because I can't also be a player if I already know the whole, idea. I guess I could, but it wouldn't.
But you'd be an NPC in that sense. One of
Basically,
us would
yeah,
be playing an NPC.
yeah.
Mhm.
And it also takes away, if I'm trying to run the production for the game, I shouldn't be playing a character because then I'm distracted from what I should be doing.
Mhm.
So it's like,
Yeah.
in a movie, you don't have your sound engineer playing character, playing a main character because they have a job to do.
Mhm.
you know, he can't
Unless it's
be
Dave
like,
Made a Maze, then you do.
well, yeah, he can't be, on set running around, uh, run over, flip a button, run back on camera, like it just doesn't work. So we haven't been able to tackle that one, and it's like Pickles and I recently watched stupid show, the stupidest show. That stupid guy
Deadstream.
running around screaming.
Yeah, Deadstream.
Oh my god,
I was going to mention that
stupidest
actually.
thing. I
So
like
what I
no.
love about the movie
Good, good.
Mhm.
Deadstream 2023, I believe, is a found footage movie with the new like bent on found footage movies where it's a found stream where somebody was streaming live and they're doing something or recording for YouTube or whatever. And then bad things happen, they die or they make it out and they still post it. But either way, it gets posted. And so it's sort of neat because then it adds the side of like you have commentators on it saying what they want to say about the storyline, and it's usually very very scripted and curated to help give clues if you're looking closely. But disgraced, but he's coming back, goes to a haunted house for a night in the middle of nowhere, and he sets up a bunch of cameras, talks about all the spooky stuff, and then things start to happen. He starts sprinting away, screaming, running to a closet. It's a little bit over the top, but it is a comedy horror, very low budget. And what I love about the movie, what I love is that that's the perfect intro for one of my adventures, is it not, Wrath? A streamer goes to a haunted house, posts this weird video,
And then
goes
we would
missing.
get called in.
Somebody has to investigate it.
Yeah,
I would love to have King, Verde, and Iris investigate that exact situation. It just wouldn't fit thematically,
but the
but it
point
makes me like tantalized.
the point
Go
I
for
was
it.
getting to is this is a whole production. This guy made this show, and it's out. People watch it. People actually watched it, and I was like, "This is the dumbest
In
thing."
universe.
Well, I'm sure people have actually watched it. I mean, you watched it. I watched it.
Yeah, but like he puts it up like, oh, 5 million people are watching the stream at the same time. It's like, come on.
Right, but even, I mean, I can pull up Twitch streams where it's just a bunch of stuffed animals on a cat tower, and it's got thousands of viewers, and
Mhm.
people watch
Are there
this
kitty
crap.
cats?
And no, they were just stuffed animals. They were pretending to be cats. It was sleeping cats on the cat tower, but it was stuffed animals. Anyways,
See.
it pissed me off. So I see this. What was it called?
Deadstream,
Deadstream. Okay, so I
uh,
see this,
2023.
and I'm like, this guy put together, because at first I thought it was like a real thing, and I'm watching all these people comment and how many viewers he had, and he's running around doing this thing, and I was like, this is the most annoying person. Like, I want to punch him in the face. Like, this sucks. I was like, I want to fight this dude. Like, I will fight you on camera. I don't care. Like, it genuinely aggravated me. And I'm watching this, and we got to the end of this thing. We got to the end of the show, and I'm like, okay, you know, granted, I have to give him props because he's doing something right. He's got all these people watching, donating, commenting, you know, da-da-da-da-da. I could only dream of getting people to actually watch King's Crossing. You know what we have? We have one viewer. And that makes me happy. I got one viewer, you know, and they're the best viewer I think I've ever had in my life, which is great. But this person has like tons of people watching and commenting, blah, blah, blah. And then we get to the end of the movie. Somehow I made it to the end. I don't really know why. Must have not had anything better to do.
You love me.
Which is impossible. Yeah, it's just I like hanging out with Pickles is literally the only reason. So we get to the end of the movie. It starts playing the credits. And I'm expecting it to be just this one guy's name in every, like, sound engineer, him. Actor, him. Producer, him. Because that's what my credits are. When I was building the wiki, it's like every credit is me. And I was like, this is annoying. It goes to the credit, and it goes on and on and on and on. And I'm like, sitting there like, there's so many people involved. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, there was a huge team. And I'm watching this, so I was like, this dude either has a ton of friends who are just had time and money to help him, or he had time and money to pay a bunch of people to help him. And I'm sitting here like, fuck. Like, if I had time and money, if he had time and money, or those people had time and money, and they were able to create that garbage fire, if I had time and money, think of what we could do. I created King's Crossing, which has turned out really well, but think if I had time and money to pay people to help me with this. Or if I had friends who had time and money who would just volunteer to help me with this. You know what we could create? This guy had maybe 100 people in the credits, and I'm sitting here with one. I'm like, oh, it made me so mad. I was already hated him, and then I just was more mad. But I was also just defeated. I was like, God, man, I will never be able to make something like that because I don't have the opportunities that this person had. That is what sucks about the real world and life.
If I can interject really quick, one of my favorite low budget Canadian competitive shows that got really popular, you'll know of it, Kenny versus Spenny. It's a very crass show from the 2000s, but in one of the behind the scenes, one of the creators, Kenny, laments that they really have a hard time with anything because nobody shows up on time, and the people who do show up on time are these weird freaking weirdos who don't know what they're talking about and are just so creepy and unsettling that it doesn't even like do anything. And it's because, they don't have enough money. They only have enough money for the camera crew and like the basic necessities. And so it's like, if we had money, we could actually make something great. And when I listened to that, I was like, yeah, that is why they have like the most budget special like advice people possible in this show. It's just because they don't have enough money. It takes tons of money to make these productions that we look at and go, that's good television. That's a good movie.
Yeah, because as much as I'm like, King's Crossing is a gem and it's great and people like it and we're having a lot of fun, how many people have volunteered to help with it? Hell, I asked my players to write a backstory on their characters and they still haven't done it. Like, no one has
in character for Grunkle.
Yeah, no one has time and money. Like, I mean, it's not a dig on you guys. It's just maybe you don't have the time to do it.
Yep.
You know, how many people have volunteered to help me with it? Hell, Daisy volunteered to help. You know how much she's added? None, because she doesn't have time. This isn't a dig on anyone. Like I said, it's just time and effort. You know, it goes in with everything. It's for me. If I had more money,
full-time student.
Yeah, like I have the time to build King's Crossing, but not the money to make it to the next level. And my time is limited. You know, when I'm playing the game, when I'm DMing, I don't have time to also do the production value to it. And so it's like, or you know, the skill. Like I don't have the marketing capabilities to, you know, I'm trying to create these shorts to like market it and put it out there so that people will, you know about it. And you know, I've done that twice now, and people specifically avoided it. They were like, Ras working on this. I'm literally going to go do anything else. And it's like that. It just goes to
That's
show,
dig
you know,
on me.
that is.
I do
Hey,
so
it
much
wasn't.
editing as it
It
is.
wasn't just you. It was 3 of you. I know because I look over and I see you guys in Discord specifically avoiding me, and I was like, cool.
We thought we were
I
actually
know.
showing up to the party.
It was a
and
miscommunication.
Then my pants were down and I got confused.
I know. It's all good. I'm not.
I feel like
I'm not salty.
Adis has been nodding along here.
Yeah, I'll shut up. I've been ranting.
I was looking at DC. You've been nodding along. I didn't know if you had any additional thoughts here.
Not many. Yeah, I mean,
No.
I like the hand gesture for that. Like the idea just popped.
no, but yeah, I mean,
Um,
yeah, it's if you can't tell already by my response rate on Discord, I've got a full-time job that requires a lot of my attention. So there's my time commitment, and I'm also paying off student debt, so there's my money commitment. So it certainly, and I hope it's not. I hope it's not coming through in like. I hope my game, as far as the dirty journey, I hope it doesn't start to affect that too much. And if it starts to, please let me know, because I can make corrections, but I just need to know, like, from outside perspectives, like, hey, this kind of was showing up and like this doesn't seem as well prepared as it should have been, and maybe you, hey, pick it up. I can take that sort of criticism, but so those sorts of things are a difficulty that, I mean, the biggest baddest boss of them all is scheduling and commitments.
To tie that back into the original topic, we'll go for, we'll tie it back in. We'll go full circle so that way it stays on point with the episode. Yeah. Developing the concept of your game, you also have to consider time and money and effort that's going to go into that. If you're like, hey, I want to create a Game of Thrones type world, that's a lot. Whereas if you're like, I want to create something short,
a cart traveling along a path.
yeah, you want to create
Applejack and Beat Boys.
Yeah, I was thinking like I don't know, like It's Always Sunny. Is that on one bar? I can't really reference this because I don't know, but
yeah,
Cheers
but
is in one bar or something.
You can just watch any episode. Yeah, and like it doesn't matter what episode you go into for that.
Right, I'm just saying, like, if you want to create, a whole universe, that's going to be one thing. If you want to create, one town, that's going to be one thing. If you just want to create one neighborhood, you got to figure out what you have the time and effort to put into.
Oh, yeah.
What you can.
It's easier to make a small culture as opposed to a large one.
And how much time you have to actually work on it. If you pitch a, Star Wars game, which has multiple planets, which is da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and then you get all the players and they come in and you've only prepared one house because that's all you had the time to do, they're going to be like, well, what other planets do I know about? And you're like, I don't know. I haven't made them yet. What other races do I know about? I don't know. One's on other planets. It's going to show that you didn't have the time to invest in that concept. So you need to develop a concept that works for the time you have, or take the time needed to develop the concept you want. I think that would play a huge part into it as well. Like if you're trying to create Sesame Street versus Game of Thrones. Go ahead.
Sesame Street versus Game of Thrones. That's a sentence right there.
I don't
know. I was just gonna say, more literally, I feel like you selected a build that works well for what you want to do. You can bring us to the next town whenever you want, and when you do, that would expect some like detail to it. But traveling along the road, that's an easy way to isolate and make it very easy about what you're like describing, who's there, who you can talk to. We have Dan, the engineer. We love him. But you also have the
Yeah, it's
boon
great.
of two players who haven't really gotten to play with each other.
Mhm.
That sounds weird. Play as co-players before, and so
We have.
I
It's
feel
just
like
been
we have a lot
under
of pent up
terrible
RP.
DMs.
Well, and some of us might debate that, but regardless, it's a DM that works for both of us is key, rather than a DM that works for one of us or not at all.
I
So
don't mean
it's
like
been fun,
in-mills.
but
In-mills is
that also
great, and
works as a boon for you.
I support in-mills 100%. I
Okay,
didn't. I
and
was thinking.
naming.
I was just. I. That's the one other person I could think of that we played under that I was like,
Yeah.
not in-mills. I don't mean in-mills. In-mills is great. I love in-mills. Go check out in-mills.
Oh, that one time with the competitive thing. God. You remember the competitive game we played in for that had like a cash reward? And we like immediately died. I think I was really, really
Oh, this
drunk.
was like the tournament one that we were in.
Yeah,
We
yeah, and
immediately died.
yeah, well, I didn't care. I didn't even enter the dungeon, I don't think.
Yeah, we. I think I do remember that we
I just passed
immediately
out.
died. No, I was thinking that it was the one where like the guy made your girlfriend read all the lines because he didn't want to. There was the one where
Oh,
you get to be you
oh
get to be a
god.
custom character. Like
Yeah, no,
we've played together a couple
yeah, that
times.
was
It's
it
just
person.
under
We don't talk about that. That was
right.
terrible.
Yeah. So that's what I was thinking of when I say terrible DMs. I don't mean people like
Yeah,
Inwills. Inwills is a
yeah, no,
very
that was
experienced,
ugh.
wonderful DM, and he runs a great game on his channel. You can go check that out on Saturdays. Mr. Pickles plays in that.
Yeah,
Great guy.
I play in every single game because I can't get enough. I'm a psychopath. Um, didn't mean to include that last part, but yeah. So I just wanted to reiterate that I have no issues with the campaign. I've been having so much fun. I was actually a little bit disappointed that I'd get to talk about myself today rather than play the game.
We can't play this game
But
every week. We have to still do a podcast, but
yeah, but I want to.
I did like the what you started on there, and I think we got a little off track. But the framework of how your game
As
is
always.
built as well, it
Mhm.
works for his concept. The framework for mine, I think, works really well for me too because I took it in an open style framework. What I did is I created the foundations of what I wanted, the key founding concepts that like this is a known fact. This is a known
Mhm.
fact. The things in between we can develop. So like apparently the dwarves hate goats and they fight goats. I didn't develop that, but it's a thing. The dwarves have had wars with goats. And
Goat sold them out to the vampires.
maybe I don't know. I don't know what it was. We haven't developed everything about it, but the goats and the dwarves do not like each other. Um, so that framework for me worked because it allowed me to create the pinnacles of my story, the real focal points. But how that story develops was a lot of the players and me working together, and I like that. It's fun for me because one, I don't have to develop literally everything. Two, and this goes into what Pickles was saying, let your characters bring their passions in. You know, like I really like guns. I'm going to bring that in. Okay, we can have some guns in here that kind of work with the story and keep it going and flowing. Um, and three, it makes it really fun for the players. So it's fun for me, it's fun for the players, and it creates like a unison um, between player and DM to where you can trust each other, you can work together. You know, like I think it was Grunkle's done it a couple times, Torvikic's done it a couple times. People have, you know, that you can say something and just kind of bring it up and be like, you know, Grunkle was a bad berserker, and I'm like, okay, you know, let's roll with it. You know, how, why, you know, da 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 da. So then Pickles isn't just like, I'm not like, no, you weren't. They don't have berserkers. Da da da. He's like, oh, okay, you know. So I think framework of how your game is made, which Pickles brought up, is a relevant point when you're developing the concept and the influences of what you want your game to be. What framework works for that?
Mhm.
Pickles, you've had a couple different frameworks in recent games.
I yeah, I've had a lot of different frameworks because nothing seems to work. But I did want to say, part of a successful game, especially long term, um, is letting your players write in a campaign that failed. Um, and a big thing
Hang on, pause.
of
Can
why
you
it
say that
failed
part
was
again?
I
It cut
didn't
out.
allow players to write at all. I had Oh, sorry. Um, I was just saying you have to let your players write, because if you don't allow them to write, then they won't invest. And that was part of
Hmm.
why my last campaign that you were in failed. Was I left so little room for you guys to write that I think it was suffocating. Um, and that's where it was like, I've really written your roles for you. I may as well have written a novel in the end.
Hmm.
Uh, um, and you have to allow your players to write into the culture and say the things they want to say. Um, in the sense of you could say no, but the more you say yes, the more your players will invest. I think they're like, "This is how dwarves are," and you say, "Nuh-uh, no, no, wrong." That's gonna be jarring. But if you let them say, "Yeah, dwarves," there are some dwarves who like wine, actually, and they're not really superior dwarves. They're kind of less dwarves. You could establish that wine cast, if you will, and
Mm.
that might make the player more invested in the campaign because
Hmm.
they've written something.
And I
That's the
think,
big thing
yeah,
I've found is just you can't stop them from writing. I feel.
building into that immersion, getting them invested in the game, that's huge. I absolutely agree.
Mhm.
A good example of that is Grunkle said, "Oh, I hate goblins. We fight goblins." And I was like, "Actually, goblins are in your empire." And he was like, "I hate most goblins. I hate goblins
Oh yeah, yeah. No,
anyways."
I
And
turned it more. Yeah.
I was
Well, that's a
like, "That
yes and.
works."
You should always be yes and.
Yeah.
Like I said I hate goblins. You said, well, they work in your empire, and it's like, well, yeah, it's more like I don't like them because
Yeah,
they're
I
always
don't like
stealing
my
from me, and I'm
coworker. And I
racist.
was like, yeah, that makes sense. Maybe Grunkle was in the war that dominated the goblins and got them into the part of the empire, but he fought goblins and had to deal with them. And he was like, yeah, I hate them. They killed my friends.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and that's great writing. It doesn't have to be always yes and. There could be no and or no but. Um,
Yeah, I think that one was more of a no but because like I said, I in my
yeah.
framework I had key pinnacles. I know the Green Army, the Rockheart Empire, and I know which races are a part of it. So when you're like, fuck goblins. So I was like, well, hang on. No, but we can make that work, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's the entire thing. Is a lot of RP, especially on a stage like we do here, is just yes and improvisations.
Mhm.
Perhaps a long form improvisation. Really, it's just we're all just dancing about and just trying to make up things that we think will land,
Yeah, and
and we have no writers.
I think that's why games like Strange Town, Golden Ridge, and King's Crossing have done really well recently. Because like in Strange Town, Golden Ridge, as much as the players or the characters really have tension between them, there's never been a no. Like in my case, excuse me, Detective Verde will pop off on some raw shit, and I'm just like, okay, and da 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 da. I roll with it. I let we roll, and he's definitely done that with Kingsman as well.
Mhm.
So there's never been like oh, I steal his cushions. No, you don't. Oh, okay.
I've got a warrant out for your arrest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're here to arrest you.
Kick
Okay.
the, the table.
Yeah, open the table. You're gonna have to come and get me. What are you talking about? Just let us in. Oh, okay. Yeah, good times. Go watch the campaign. It's great. Um, yeah. So I guess before we wrap up, I don't know how long this episode's gone on, but before we wrap up, I'm curious. Going forward with your games, do you? I know this is different depending on your writing style, and we'll get into that in another episode. But going forward with your games, do you continue to draw on influences and continue to, adapt and change and alter your game, pulling more and more influences as you go along, whether that's from one medium or multiple assortment like I do? And how does that really look And I know this is kind of going into the writing styles, and we will get into that in another episode. But we'll jump back over to Adise. I feel like I've been talking over you a lot.
No worries. So I think as a newer DM, among the three of us, I have to essentially keep adapting the way that I'm doing these things because I'm still learning. I have I'm still trying to figure my way through like these situations where, all right, I know I want to get this plot point out here, but I need to introduce it in a way that's not going to be uh, misinterpreted by my players, or I need to come up with a way to introduce this major storyline without just feeling like I'm jamming it in there. And to do that, I've been kind of following a lot of I've been trying to like go and rewatch and like learn how honestly you two have been introducing some of the storylines in your campaigns and introducing like those major plot points and like, hey, here's this character, go do something with them. And I'm trying to kind of get that gauge of how to do that responsibly as a DM, and in order to elicit the sort of reaction that I want out of my players.
I like that. Yeah, I like that, and I think it is really cool. And it's going to be really interesting watching your progress as you go because for someone who is really new to it, you don't have your own prior experience to pull off of. So like I have had a lot of failed games, and so I can pull from those and be like, this didn't work. This didn't work. This also didn't work. So that's also influencing and impacting my future games. But for you, you don't have, successes or fails in the past to pull from. So yours is really just a blank slate that you're getting to draw on for the first time. Yeah, and it's cool. It's going to be really cool to kind of watch as it goes along. Yeah, I'm just curious, like as you play other games, I mean, you did mention you get to watch our games and kind of see what we do, but as you play games or as you watch shows or movies or whatever you do in your free time, whatever there is of that, do you like, hey, I really need to introduce this plot, I don't know exactly how to do it, so then you're hanging out playing WoW and you're like, oh, that was a really cool idea, that was a really cool concept, I wonder if I could do something like that. And then boom, bam, you can tie that into your game and come up with something cool. Have you ever had any moments like that?
Well, as a matter of fact, earlier in this discussion, when Pickles brought up like movies and music, I mean, I kind of just glossed over the fact that, there's some things that I could maybe pull in and maybe incorporate some of those lead-ins into my campaign. Namely like with introductions and how the wrong way to do it is to just like jump it in and be like, okay, it's there because it's there. We are in more of an open format, so we can take some more time to be able to introduce these things. Speaking of the nun, of course, but you can actually take more time to introduce these things and build them up over time, and like he was saying, pull at those strings until something unravels.
One that really struck with me, and that Pickles reminded me of it with the nun thing, is I believe it was in Skyrim. You enter one of the towns and there's a public hanging going on. And I, as a character, I stood and watched that whole thing and like watched the NPCs around me, watched their faces, and I was very invested in it. Like immediately grabbed me, and I was like, "That was awesome!" Like I don't know, there's something about it. And I remember, God, it was an Assassin's Creed game, Black Flag, but they did a hanging scene, and I immediately stood and watched and was like, "Oh, I'm so invested because I want there's events going on like." Other people, NPCs are living lives and like there's things that they did that affected them that now this guy is dying over that he did and I wasn't here for it. I'm catching up. Hey, what happened? Hey, what are we here for? Why is that guy getting hung? And I just think that's really cool. So that's something you can do in a TTRPG. Whereas in a movie, You know, the nun, you walk up, they're hung, and it's like, oh, that happened. Boom. Oh, okay. Like, you know, it's, yeah. Whereas in like a TTRPG, you can create a whole plot of just that event. Like Assassin's Creed has a whole plot leading up to that guy's hanging. And that's just one of many plot lines that you get to do in the game. That's not like the whole thing. So it's cool. I like that. Pickles, going forward, how do you still have influences and stuff that affect your game, and you get to like rewrite or add to or change and adapt based on influences you're still getting?
I think I might be cutting out a little bit here, so apologies if I do. But for the most part, my current method is to like write down all of the ideas I want for a campaign and then start to like diffuse what I want to do. So Strange Town of Golden Ridge is a 10 adventure campaign. Psych, I changed it down to 7 because I was like 10 adventures, that's a long time. So like I took a lot of ideas and cut out even good ideas and threw them on the chopping floor. And now I have my 7 adventure campaign that I didn't think I could like push down further to make smaller because I felt like the effect would be lost if I make it smaller than that. And so for the most part, a lot of it is just what do the players want to do and how can I use what I already have to like augment that? Like given what skills they have, what edges they, how do I make that work with the plot I have going forward? And so I write each adventure based on the players that are present in that adventure, like prior, going forward. And it's really just editing at this point. Like I think I told Daisy in her stream last night when she was picking advancements. Initially, I had a teenage son in the house that you guys have been in with all those little monsters where you were threatening the guy in the kitchen. Yeah, I was gonna have a teenage son there, one of the Yuskoskis. I was gonna have him be like, "Oh, I'm innocent. My dad's a freak. I don't agree with this." And then when you turn your back, he'd just stab you in the neck. Get the drop.
Really messed up.
+4 damage, +4 accuracy. And I was like, yeah. I looked back and I was like, you know, based on the fact that Daisy said getting the little monsters eating cornflakes shot in the head was traumatizing, I think a real person might be a little too far. And so I was like, you know what? You're not there anymore. I'm gonna put a little monster in your place. Not a human boy, because I feel like nobody wants to shoot a 13-year-old boy in the head.
Even in a
that would
TTRPG, no.
not that would not be a fun time. That's dark. It's a little too dark for the horror.
But there are
And I
little
wanna make
kids
the
in
horror
Skyrim
like,
who would run up and
something
taunt you, and
where
I wouldn't mind kicking them.
yeah,
Just a kick.
well, I don't know. There are lines that can be crossed in horror, and I feel like that's one I didn't feel was appropriate at that point. It's one thing to kill monsters; it's another thing to kill a real human boy. And so,
Are you taking stabs at me for getting
yeah,
Mateo
so
killed?
that's kind of the going forward. Is I just
I feel like,
no,
I feel like I'm being targeted.
that was
here.
entirely effective. You didn't kill him. You didn't make me hold Mateo down and cut his head off.
Oh, yeah,
That would have been fucked up.
there's a
You had the
limit
monsters
to
take him,
what I
and
wanna
that's
do,
something
yeah.
that's more like, yeah, you motivated me to say those blights are a problem. That's what your actions did there. And when you let me run through the woods blindly and not catch him, that made me go, once they're taken, they're gone.
I let you guys roll because I was like, maybe. I was like, this is their element, their environment. They can move freely, and you guys have come across the idea that I don't know if you guys have grasped this, but at the very beginning, you guys had to do some street work and cleaning around town. And as time has progressed, you've noticed
Shit's muddy.
Yeah, the town continually gets covered in mud, sticks, twigs. So these things were, I don't know if you guys, they're very clearly moving around as they please. Oh, he hasn't
town?
caught on to this, my bad. Spoiler.
Oh, shit, I thought was just the swamp. I thought that was natural swampage. It's like, yeah, well, you live in a
Nope.
well,
desert. The sand
spoiler warning
comes in.
Sorry.
Oh, you live in a swamp. The mud comes in, and I took that personally.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, whoops. Well, now you know. But anyways, are we wrapping up? Is that the last note to end on? Oh, for myself, moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you doing?
My like I said, my framework is very much I have the pinnacles, and then everything in between we get to kind of build together. So I still get to add to mine. I still get to build onto mine. Hey, I have a really cool plot that I want to introduce where they get to go do this quest. How that's going to come about, I don't know. Oh, hey, I just watched Ugly Americans with some people in Discord. Maybe I can pull some cool ideas from that and then add those into the game. Okay, yeah, I like that idea. Boom. Oh, I like this idea. Boom. Oh, I like this type of character. I really want to have someone like that in my game. Boom. I get to, write those down and add them in. So my game is very much always changing, adapting, growing, expanding.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of fun, but that's also why I very desperately need the wiki so I can keep everything straight.
Yes.
Like Torvik not being or having a last name, and Grunkle being able to read apparently sometimes. Who knew?
And Adarag forgetting which god he worshipped.
Yeah, that was funny. That was a moment where you're like, oh, that god, and I was like, different god, not that god.
Not that god. You're not that guy.
Yeah, you're not that guy. Mateo call out. Anything from chat here before we wrap up? They want to know what the map is of behind you on your wall, Adis.
Oh, this is a map of the Witcher universe. So
I think I've asked you
yeah,
that before. I remember that.
yeah. I mean, I'm kind of a fan.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yes, but yeah. So this is just all a map of the isle, like the Isles are over there. Not a newscaster. There we go.
Oh, it's on this.
Yeah. So the Isles over here, and then you got mainland area. Yep. So.
Okay. Mine is there's a deflated air mattress there. There's laundry that is not in my laundry bag there. There's my humidor of my cigars there. Oh, and hang on. And the Iron Man Hulkbuster suit that I built out of Legos.
Iron Man.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
a little helmet pops up and there's a little dude inside. Like his hands rotate. He's got the full go sleep, go sleep, go sleep, go sleep. If you've seen the movie, you'll get that reference. Yeah, built a whole thing. I thought Pickles was just showing us his crotch, and then I realized he was showing a cat.
Yeah, this is what Mulberry does most of the streams. She just sits here. I go like that.
That's great, yeah. I wish Kira would just sit here and I could just pet her.
Yeah.
Oh, she's over there sleeping. She came in. Anywho, that's going to be it from us. Thank you so much for watching. This has been another episode of Dirty Drinks and Discussions, the RPG podcast. Next week, we'll be diving into the Dirty Journey.
Yes, we will.
Hell yeah.
And maybe with an extended
Roll
episode,
along.
we might be able to dive a bit more into the lore now that we're all sitting around a campfire.
You know what? Let's put it up to the viewers. If you guys want an extended episode next week of The Dirty Journey, let us know in Discord. You're more than welcome to join us in Discord. Go ahead and jump into the TTRPG chat and let us know your thoughts on the Dirty Journey. Next week, we will also be getting a Whiskey Sips maybe session.
A Whiskey Sips, as well as we might have an update on a new session.
Of what?
Wait, are we
Oh,
doing
the-
mines?
The Mines of Fandelver.
Oh, is that coming back?
Oh no. The other mines. The Latro.
Oh, I was like, what are we talking about? He's not. I mean, we can kind of do an update on it. We're gonna be streaming that on Friday,
Yeah.
so that's kind of different. But
Yeah, it's a little different, I guess.
on Friday,
Yeah.
we're gonna be this Friday. If you guys catch us live, we are going to be playing the new. I don't even remember what it's called. The new
Lord of
mon-
the Rings.
Return
To Moria.
That's the one. We're gonna be trying that out. It's gonna be myself. It's gonna be Adis. He's, you know who he is, and Tough Nuts is gonna be joining us. He is the voice and portrayal of the character known as Nimwort from King's Crossing. So we're gonna be playing through.
The intro and the first settlement.
I meant the game name, but yeah.
My yes.
Return to Moria.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're gonna be playing through that. Starting on Friday. So it airs Friday, and then I think it'll be every Tuesday going forward.
Yes, because Halloween is tomorrow.
Also, yeah, just because scheduling. It's like, man, scheduling anything. It's like, yeah, you get 2 weeks or 2 hours a week, and that's all you get. So it's like, and it's like we were trying to take on Divinity Original Sin 2, which is like 150-hour game or something. It's like you get 2 hours a week, so it's gonna take a couple years to finish it.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work.
I think this is working.
Scheduling is the real spooky this Halloween
Yeah.
season.
You want to hear a horror?
Scheduling.
You want to hear a horror story? Try and schedule a D&D game with
Of 8
people.
people.
Yeah,
Dun, dun, dun!
across multiple time zones who have different working hours. Oh, weekends.
And
No,
3
I
of
work
them
weekends.
have wives.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How about evenings?
relationship
I
time.
have a wife. All right, never mind. Anywho, that's it
I
from
have
us.
17 children and no wife.
Jeez, yeah, you're out. You don't get to play. What is today? Today's
Sorry.
Monday. Tomorrow's Tuesday. Happy Halloween to everyone out there. Hopefully you guys if you're watching this on YouTube, hopefully you had a good Halloween, even though this episode is probably going to air sometime in November. Hopefully you had a good Halloween. Hopefully you have a great Thanksgiving. And that's about all we got for you. The next time you will see us, will I be streaming tomorrow? I might be streaming tomorrow. I don't have things to do. I think the official next time you'll see us would technically be Thursday for Raft, right?
Yep.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. So anyways, that's it from us. Happy Halloween, and we'll see you next time. Later, everyone.
Cheers.
I love you.